يوما بمعنى الصديق.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. أما بعد، قال الله تبارك وتعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. وقال الله تبارك وتعالى: الأخلاء يومئذ بعضهم لبعض عدو إلا المتقين. عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لا تصحب إلا مؤمنا ولا يأكل طعامك إلا تقي. وعنه صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: مثل الجليس الصالح والجليس السوء كحامل المسك ونافخ الكير، فحامل المسك إما أن يحذيك وإما أن تبتاع منه وإما أن تجد منه ريحا طيبة، ونافخ الكير إما أن يحرق ثيابك وإما أن تجد منه ريحا خبيثة، أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. Our discussion today is about friends. And friends are something that every human being needs to some extent. We are, as they say, social creatures. We tend to have an inner inclination towards socializing, meeting, discussing, familiarizing, and of course, doing activities with other people. However, we have the choice to choose, to decide who we share our friendship with and who we don't. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not forced us to befriend anyone and everyone who comes along. There are choices we make. And Islam, along with the rest of its complete teachings, also gives us some insight as to how to make those selections, how to make those choices. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَكُونُوا مَعَ الصَّادِقِينَ. O you who believe, fear Allah and be with the truthful people. Truthful people are those who are true in speech and they are true in actions. They are true to themselves. They are true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He wants us to be with these kinds of people. Why? Because when you stay around a group of people, you end up becoming like them. The hadith says, الْمَرْءُ عَلَى دِينِ خَلِيلِهِ فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلُ. There's a hadith of Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi and Ahmad, that a person is on the religion of their friend. In other words, a person could be very pious, upright, practicing, decent, filled with many good qualities. And then they befriend someone who is not like that. They befriend someone who is not pious, who is not practicing, who is indecent. So no matter how pious this first person is today, it's only a matter of time before the effects of the other person rub off on them. So we need to tone down the speakers just a little bit. There's still some... So you can have the most perfect person. Doesn't do anything wrong. Good behavior, you're praying and doing all of those other things. And then you put them with someone who doesn't really take their religion, their deen so seriously. So there's going to be a conflict and a tussle here. It could be that sometimes the person who is stronger in their religion has a good effect on the other person. This is possible. And it's also possible that the one who is not practicing has an impact, has an influence on the other person, on the one who is practicing. So how do you know which one will win? Who will overpower the other? In many cases you don't. But the key is that we are talking about who you choose as your friends. Who do you choose to be around? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us to choose to be around those people whose company is beneficial for us, who are helping us get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ gives the example in this hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, that the example of a good companion and a bad companion is like someone who carries perfume, the perfume merchant. They're still not turning down the speakers. What's going on? Can you just follow up with me? Because there's no change. We're getting feedback. So the good influence, pious friend, is compared to someone who carries perfumes and sells perfumes, hamil al-musk. And the example of the bad friend, the bad influence, is like someone who works in a blacksmith's shop, and their job is to blow into the forge. So they're blowing, they're stoking that fire, and there's black smoke coming out, there are sparks coming out. So you can imagine what the appearance of these two people are going to be like. The one who carries perfumes and sells it is always going to smell good. And the one who is doing that other kind of work is always going to have the smell of smoke in their body and in their clothes. So what he says, alayhi salatu wassalam, is that if you were to stay around this perfume seller, then one of three things is going to happen. Either he's going to gift you some perfume. He's going to give it to you. Or you can purchase it from him. So it's not a gift that's for free, but it's an exchange. You do something for them, and they do something good for you in return. Money has value, perfume has value. You give him something of value, he gives you something of value right back. And the third is, if he doesn't gift you anything, and you don't exchange anything for perfume with him, the least benefit you will get is that you'll be able to smell this nice fragrance whenever he's around. So the pious friend, the decent friend, the good influence, is either going to be giving you some kind of benefit. Every time you're around, you're getting something. A good lesson, some inspiration, word of wisdom, some worldly benefit, some spiritual benefit. You're getting something from them. It could be something that you observe them doing, and that becomes a lesson for you, that this person does such and such thing in such a nice way. You feel encouraged to do the same. Or there's an exchange. You need him for something, but he also needs you for something. So you're helping him out with something, and he's helping you out with something. Maybe there is some worldly need of his that you can fulfill. And in exchange, he is not being miserly and stingy, he is also conveying to you and teaching to you whatever he has. A friend that you help in a certain subject in school, and they in exchange teach you something about deen. So this is an exchange of good things. And at the very least, if he's not giving you anything, you're not taking anything from him, then you're in a good environment, in a pleasant smelling environment. So it's nice just to be around. So you're not taking anything home with you, but the enjoyment stays. A person who is pious, who has taqwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them in such a way that people will always be benefiting from them. Even if they have nothing to say. Even in their silence, there is a benefit for the people around them. A person whose heart is very strongly attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and just sitting with these kinds of people is filled with benefit. Even if they're not giving you a lecture, they're not talking to you, they're not, educating you in that sense, but just being around them. But on the other side, the one who works the forge, the furnace, so if you hang around him while he's at his workplace, while he's doing what he does, it's very possible that those sparks that are coming out of the furnace, and there's a lot of fire, very high temperatures, that fire is not just to burn things, it's to melt metal of different degrees. So it's very possible that hanging around him, your own clothes might just get burnt by some of those sparks. And the very least harm is that whenever this person is around, you have to put up with that terrible smell. Thick, heavy smell of burning and of smoke. So a person who is far from Allah, a person who doesn't care, who is openly disobedient, breaks the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you make that person your best friend. You make that person the one you hang around. It's only a matter of time before, the very least, either they're going to discourage you from practicing good. This is your clothes being burnt. This is the burning of the clothes. That they're discouraging you from good deeds, and they're encouraging you to do something wrong. This is the guy who dares you to do something. This is the guy or the girl who tells you, what's wrong with you? Why don't you live a little bit? This is the one who tells you that you're living such a restricted life. You're always going to the mosque, you're always wearing hijab, and you're always listening to your parents. You don't have any life. You're living a life of imprisonment. You need to rebel a little bit just to live. You need to enjoy life. This is that spark that's going to burn you. You're always worried about praying. What's wrong with you? Let's just go out and have fun. The one who discourages you from praying. The one who tells you that people will make fun of you if you pray. The one who tells you that if you go out dressing decently, if you go out wearing a hijab and wearing loose clothes, no one's going to accept you. People are going to think you're a weirdo. This is the one who tells you that if you're always praying, you'll never have fun in life. This is the one who tells you that if you're always studying Islam, you'll never be able to understand what's happening in the world. These are those people. They're burning your clothes. And the very least harm is that when you're around them, you don't feel inclined to do good things. This is that smell, that odor. The very least harm is you're less inclined than if you were with a pious person. Think about it for a second. Someone who prays 5 times a day, when you're around him, it's so easy to pray. But someone who doesn't, it's not as easy. What about someone who doesn't want you to pray? it's even harder. Wearing hijab around people who wear hijab makes it much easier. But if you're always around, if you're the only one wearing hijab and none of your friends wear it, it's only a matter of time before you're going to start wondering why you're doing it. Last week we talked about peer pressure. How it works. Peer pressure affects everyone. People of all ages. Peer pressure affects babies, toddlers, and it affects full-grown people in the prime of their lives. Even elderly people are affected by peer pressure. So when we're selecting friends, we want to select someone who can only be of some benefit to us in our deen. There's nothing wrong with having friends that are beneficial for you in dunya. For example, people that you get together and study with, people that you get together and do projects with, people that you get together and play sports with, or do some other activity, as long as they are not a hindrance in your deen. Okay? So, the Prophet ﷺ says, لا تصحب, in one riwayat, لا تصاحب. Don't befriend إلا مؤمنا. Anyone other than a true believer. ولا يأكل طعامك إلا تقي. Only pious, God-fearing people should share your food with you. What does that mean? There are two conditions in which we feed people. One is when the other person is in need. They don't have food. They're really hungry. They need to eat. And the other is when you are feeding them to entertain them. Like you call people over to your house, you have a da'wat at your house. You're not calling these people because they're poor and needy and they don't have food. You're calling them to entertain them. It gives you pleasure to host them. So for the first type of feeding, when someone is in need, we don't differentiate between pious and impious, Muslims, non-Muslims. When someone is in need, we feed them. Sahaba radiallahu anhum did not used to differentiate. When someone came knocking on their door asking for something, they wouldn't ask them, say the kalima, then I'll give you something. No. Someone's in need, take care of their need. That's it. We're talking about entertaining people, calling people to your house. So at that time, only the God-fearing should come and partake of your food. And what will happen when the God-fearing will come and partake of your food? They're going to use that energy only to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will have a share in all the worship and the good things that they do. Number one. Second thing is, you will get the dua of these pious people. And there's a good chance that their du'as will be accepted. Thirdly, if these people are the friends of Allah, then by assisting the friends of Allah, you are pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The easy way to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to serve the friends of Allah. So, what is the hadith telling us? That when we have a choice to associate ourselves, to affiliate ourselves with people, we should choose those who are of good religious stature. People who don't compromise their deen. They don't mess around with their deen. Someone gives the example of friends being like patches on your clothes. He says, وَمَا صَاحِبُ الْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا كَرُكَعَةٍ. A person's friend is like a patch on their clothing. عَلَى ثَوْبِهِ فَلْيَتَّخِذْهُ مُشَاكِلًا. You should make sure the patch matches the rest of the cloth. If you're a religious person, then try to keep religious people. It's even more appropriate. And if you're not, even then try to make religious friends. A person who is impious or has difficulty practicing, they have challenges. They don't have too many things pushing them to practice. The easiest way for them is just to befriend pious practicing people. Simplest way. stay in a good environment, stay with good people, it's only a matter of time before you become like them. And for a pious practicing person to be spoiled, all they have to do is befriend people who are not like them. So if we take a look around, we see a huge, broad spectrum of different kinds of people. Now you and I have to choose which of those people we will make our friends. The problem arises for youngsters when all we're looking at is someone's popularity, someone's influence, or their wealth, or something else. Sometimes our intentions are wrong. We're looking for the wrong things. We're looking for trouble. And then trouble finds us. And that's it, then we're stuck. Sometimes a person wants to rebel and they're looking for people to rebel with. So if that's what you're looking for, you will find it. It's only a matter of time. But then the regret is also on our shoulders. So many youngsters who are now adults have gone through this long journey of making friends and then getting in trouble and wasting time. Sometimes it's just a semester, sometimes it's a whole. Sometimes many years of their lives pass. And they're off on this tangent. In this time, they're estranged from their parents, they've walked away from everyone, they're estranged from their siblings, they're estranged from all their practicing Muslim friends, and they've gone through a lot of bumps and bruises, and finally they come to their senses. Sometimes they're in their late 20s when that happens, sometimes they're in their 30s, sometimes they're even older, and then something in life gives them a wake-up call. And then they want to make a U-turn and come back. And there is always a chance to make that U-turn and come back. But the thing is, what have we lost in this time? How much time have we lost? Like the hadith says, and Abbas radiallahu anhu interprets the hadith further when he says that if you hit 40 and your good deeds are not outweighing your bad deeds, you consider yourself in deep, deep trouble. Now the best time to practice deen is in your youth. The practice of the youth cannot be replaced. Cannot be. No doubt it's more difficult to practice. No doubt it's more difficult to be upright and to be disciplined in your youth, because that's when the desire to rebel and the desire to do what you want to do is overwhelming. But that's what makes it more rewarding. Whenever there is more sacrifice involved, there's more reward involved. So, the reward that a youngster would get for, let's say, getting up in the early morning and praying Fajr in the Masjid would be much more than the reward of someone who is much older than him. Why? Because the sacrifice of this one is more. Yeah, if that old person is making a greater sacrifice, then his reward will be more than the youngsters. But generally speaking, it's a challenge. On the Day of Judgment, friends will see each other. And there will be some friends who will be united on the Day of Judgment. And there will be some friends who will be enemies, staunch enemies on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Al-akhillau yawma'idin ba'duhum li ba'din adu. On that day, all friends, all near and close friends will be enemies of each other. إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ, except for those who were God-fearing. And what's going to happen is that this friend is going to blame that one. You were a negative influence on me. And this one's going to blame that one. No, you were a negative influence on me. How come you didn't remind me to do good? And how come you didn't remind me to do good? You're the one who pushed me to do that sin. You say, no, you did it yourself. So over this, they're going to be fighting and at each other's throats. And this is why they will make dua that, oh Allah, those people who led us astray, give them double the punishment that we're getting. رَبَّنَا آتِهِمْ ضِعْفَيْنِ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ وَلَعَنْهُمْ لَعْنًا كَبِيرًا. And they're going to go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, oh Allah, they're responsible for what I did wrong. Everyone's going to try to put the blame on someone else. But those people who loved each other for the sake of Allah, only for the pleasure of Allah, and whenever they were united, it was upon those things that pleased Allah. When they separated, it was in a manner doing things that pleased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those people, Allah will join them, not just join them on the Day of Judgment, but He is going to put them together under the shade of His arsh. رَجُلَانِ تَحَابَّا فِي اللَّهِ اجْتَمَعَا عَلَيْهِ وَتَفَرَّقَا عَلَيْهِ. In that hadith, 7 people who will be given the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's arsh. Those 2 people who loved each other only for the sake of Allah, they used to meet. When they met, they were doing things that were pleasing Allah. When they departed, it was departing, doing things that pleased Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is how they met, this is how they separated. They spent their lives like this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to unite them on the Day of Judgment in the best of places. So even making friends, or choosing not to make friends, is an act of Iman. Because the Prophet ﷺ says, مَنْ أَحَبَّ لِلَّهِ, a person who loves for the sake of Allah, وَأَبْغَضَ لِلَّهِ, and dislikes others for the sake of Allah, وَأَعْطَى لِلَّهِ, he gives only to please Allah, وَمَنَعَ لِلَّهِ, he withholds only to please Allah, فَقَدْ اسْتَكْمَلَ الْإِيمَانِ, this person has completed their Iman. So making friendships reflects directly on our Iman. So when we go into school and we're exposed to all the things that we are, we will find that it's not wise to try to make friends with everyone. It's not possible. In fact, the ulama have said that it is a sign of a person's lack of deen, the flimsiness of one's deen, that a person tries to make friends with everyone. So you're going to have to pick and choose. Because what you have inside, your Iman, it's precious. It's a treasure. And a treasure is always guarded against those people who are trying to take it away, who are trying to steal it. If you have value for your deen, for your Iman, for your taqwa, for your salah, for whatever you're doing, you will guard it. And you will not want to see those people who are trying to snatch it away from you. Just like if you had $1 million and you knew that there's a person who is trying to take it away from me, or this person could potentially take away that money, you're not going to want to be around that person. You don't want to even expose yourself to them. You don't want to tell them anything about you. You're going to keep everything a secret. And he may use any information that he has to get to that treasure that you own. So when you know that someone is going to affect my deen, might be a nice person, doesn't mean we start categorizing people as good or bad. We're talking about good or bad in the sense of influence. Might be a nice person, might be very kind. But if you know that someone, staying around someone is going to make you compromise deen, then you don't want to be around them. Too many youngsters get pulled into these friendships because they think someone's a nice person, or someone's really cool, or someone's really understanding, or on some occasion someone's really generous, and they get sucked into it, and the next thing you know, this is a can of worms. The next thing you know, your whole life is upside down. And kids that were perfectly obedient to their parents, kids that were doing perfectly fine in school, all of a sudden they're a different person. Now they're not getting along with their parents. Now they're not getting proper grades in school. Now they're not using their time properly. Now they're out late at night. Now they're doing all of these things. A Muslim is that kind of a person who can say no to someone when they think that person is going to harm their deen. Walk away. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be aggressive. But either through words or through actions, you should be able to say no. You should be assertive enough that you can say, look, this friendship I'm not interested in. When you see someone acting indecently, talking indecently, you should know that if you hang around them, you're going to be talking the same talk. If you see someone with a bad habit, you hang around them, you should be sure that some effect of that bad habit is going to rub off on you. Kids that are speaking perfectly fine at home, one day they come home and they're cursing and using all this kind of language, and the parents are wondering, what the heck happened to him? Nothing happened to him. He was just hanging around people who talk like that all day. That's all. He feels he has to talk like that. Indecency today is like a flood. It's a flood that's washing over everything and everyone. Things to diminish our decency are so profuse. It's unbelievable. Those things, we had a talk, we had a halaqa on modesty and decency. Those things that diminish the decency of our speech, the decency of our behavior, and the decency of our dress, or those people that reduce it, they are not good influences for us. Especially for our sisters. Those people or environments that push you to dress a little less modestly, these are those sparks that are burning your clothes. Literally. And the time is near, or perhaps it's already here, where it gets very, very difficult to find good friends. It's rare to have a good friend, someone who is religious and practicing and also cares about you. And when you find someone like that, you should hold on to them as a friend. Someone who cares about you, and someone who is helping you in your deen. This is amazing. There's one ayat in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the people of Iman. And it says, لا تجد قوما يؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر يوادون من حاد الله ورسوله ولو كانوا آباءهم أو أبناءهم أو إخوانهم أو عشيرتهم. Those people who believe in Allah and the last day, you will never find them befriending those who are enemies of Allah and His Rasul. Never. So you have a person who insults your religion, and then you go and hang around them. That basically makes you a sellout. Someone who makes fun of your ways. Somebody who makes fun of the sunnah. So you should think that who are you more loyal to? Are you more loyal to this person, or are you more loyal to Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam? You have to make that call. It's not possible for a Muslim, for a person of Iman, to tolerate someone who makes fun of Sunnah. You just can't. It's a requirement of Iman that you walk away. The very least that you do with this person is you walk away from them. And there is no harm. There is no harm in staying away from such people for the rest of your life. Because after everything is said and done, the only thing that stays with us is our Iman. If you forsake your Iman, your beliefs, your values, there is nothing. You have nothing. We have issues and cases where our brothers are getting into relationships with non-Muslim girls, and our sisters are getting into relationships with non-Muslim boys. And these people, some of them are from very good families, very good upbringing. But it's like now there's a curtain over their eyes. They can't see. And they are willing to give up the most important thing that matters the most in this universe, which is Iman. They're willing to give it away for the sake of one person. Even though a believer is such that he would not give away even a bit of his Iman for all the people in the world combined. That's what a believer is. Not one person. If all the people in the world became his beloved and offered him or her whatever they had, even then a believer would not budge, would not compromise the command of Allah. And here we're doing it for one person. It could be because there's a mutual attraction. Could be because there is some kind of a benefit involved. Could be because of any reason. But at the end of the day, if you give up your Iman, you've given up your identity. Your Iman is what makes you who you are. And on that note, you should know, before you get into such a relationship, you should know that this is going to directly impact the way you practice your deen. And for sisters, they should know that this is almost equal to basically giving away your deen and giving up your deen. Think about it. What really matters? Even if you spend your life with this person, then what? You're going to go into your grave alone. They're not going to go into your grave with you. They're not going to stand up for you on the Day of Judgment. You've lived your life, you've made your choices, you have to answer for them in front of Allah by yourself. So what if you spent your life with someone that you're attracted to, or whatever it was? If that was in the pleasure of Allah, then it's blessed. It's blessed. It brings the mercy of Allah. It brings the love of Allah. But if that was all done in the disobedience and the displeasure of Allah, it's all completely useless, worthless. A life truly not worth living. And the influence to make those choices will come from the people that you keep around you. A girl who hangs around people that are dating others, it's only a matter of time before she falls into that same trap. A guy who hangs around guys who are dating others, it's only a matter of time before he falls into that same trap. A girl who has other Muslim friends that are involved with non-Muslims, it's only a matter of time before that cancer gets into her as well. And this is one of those things that once you are in that situation, it's very, very difficult to walk away. The hardest thing in the world to walk away. So you're better off not putting yourself in that spot. لا تتخذوا بطانة من دونكم لا يألونكم خبالا ودوا ما عنتم. This verse is about munafiqeen. Don't take those people who are not one of you, who are not truly one of you, as your near friends. Bitana is the one that you rely on. the one that you trust with your internal affairs, with your secrets, your confidant. Don't make those people your confidant who are not from you. These are those people who say they believe with their tongues but their hearts don't believe. This ayat is about the munafiqeen. Inside, they will look for any excuse to see you going through hardship in your deen. Because they don't practice, they don't want you to practice. قَدْ بَدَتِ الْبَغْضَاءُ مِنْ أَفْوَاهِهِمْ. These were those people who would be heard saying negative things about Allah, about Rasulullah ﷺ, about the Muslims, about Islam. وَمَا تُخْفِي صُدُورُهُمْ أَكْبَرُ. And what they conceal inside is even worse. So what we're doing, when we take such people and we bring them into our life, we're doing just what this verse is telling us not to do. And then some people say, okay, we'll have them convert to Islam. Okay, some girls will say, okay, I'll get them to accept Islam. Guy will say, okay, I'll get her to accept Islam. Getting them to accept Islam? I mean, really? What do you mean, get them to accept Islam? What, this is some kind of formality? That you say the word and then all of a sudden everything changes? If they don't accept Islam from their hearts and openly reject the religion they were following before, they're not even Muslim. They have to denounce their previous faith and say that from now on Islam is my faith. That's my code of life. That's what makes a person a Muslim. You bring them in front of an imam and you have them read the shahada and everything is exactly as it was the minute and the hour before. What has changed? A person's life hasn't changed. Allah knows if they have truly accepted Islam or not. So, friends, there are different kinds of friends. The best thing you could do for yourself is, like I said in the beginning, affiliate yourself with those people who are going to help you in your deen. When you hang around them, you feel inclined to do more. In fact, the friendship should be such that sometimes you're inspiring them to do something good, sometimes they're inspiring you to do something good. And our refuge, our shelter, is the masjid. This is where we come to, this is where we look to for protection from shaitan and the outside environment. When in doubt, come to the masjid. Spend time here. Allah will give you solutions. The most beloved place in the world is the house of Allah, the masajid. أَحَبُّ الْبِلَادِ إِلَى اللَّهِ مَسَاجِدُهَا أَبْغَضُ الْبِلَادِ إِلَى اللَّهِ أَسْوَاقُهَا. The most despised places to Allah are the marketplaces. The more time you spend hanging around in malls, the more you're going to pick up things from outside that you should not be picking up. Attitudes, ways of thinking. That is where sparked and fed, and you will come back thinking a lot of things that you probably should not be thinking. So minimize your time in the marketplace. And the other thing is, the problem with marketplaces is they're advertising what they want you to buy. They're advertising what they want you to buy. They don't care if this is morally correct or not. They don't care. They have no worries about taking a lady and basically stripping her of almost all her clothes and putting her up in a giant size poster right where little kids are going to pass by and see it. They have no problems with that. Because like I said, shame, modesty, and decency, there are a million things out there attacking these concepts, these morals today. So you allow yourself to walk around, roam about in these places, and don't guard your gaze. You're not there for any important need, you're just there. You're going to pick up a lot of things. All of these things spark your shahawat, your desires. They ignite that fire, and it's very, very hard to control yourself after that. So stay away from places where people are dressed indecently. And if school happens to be one of those places, then do what you have to when you're in school and get out of there. Same thing applies to social media. Because today, many of your friends are the ones you have on Facebook or some other social media. So choose them carefully. Choose them carefully and interact with them carefully. You have people posting indecent messages, get rid of them. You don't need them. There's some people, they send me messages, add me as your friend requests. I don't know who they are. But because I don't use social media for socializing, I just use it for giving people updates on programs and on important things. So I add them. And I never check what's going on, the Facebook activity that's going on, what people are posting. I never check my actual account. I have this page that I use, and that's where everything goes. But if ever, by coincidence, I happen to be looking at the account and I see the post and I see something that's inappropriate, that guy's gone. Brother, sister, whoever it is, they're out of it. Don't need that. But it's unfortunate that today these things, these social media and places like schools, places like libraries, have become the marakis, they have become the centers of facilitating haram. It's unfortunate. So anyways, back to the topic. A person is on the religion of their friend. The Prophet ﷺ says, Al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi. A person is on the religion of their friend. So let one of you watch very carefully who they are befriending. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to implement these teachings. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us such that wherever we go, we have a positive influence on people. We positively affect people. We help people move up in their deen. And may Allah save us from being those people, those type of people that we see others who are low in deen, and then we also start compromising. One hadith says that the most fortunate person is the one who in deen looks at those people that are above them, and in dunya looks at those people that are below them. And the most unfortunate person is the one that in deen they look at people that are less than them, doing less than them, and in dunya they look at people who have more than them. This is how shaitan plays with us. If you're praying 5 times a day, shaitan will show you those people that aren't praying. You say, oh, you're way better than, look, these guys don't even pray. He won't show you the guy that's praying 5 times a day in the masjid with Jamea. He won't show you the guy that's also praying tahajjud. The guy who never misses his nafil. The guy who's also reading Quran every day. The guy who's doing dhikr every day. He won't show you that guy. He'll show you the guy who's doing less. He say, oh, I'm doing much better, man. I'm overdoing it. You take it easy. And in dunya, shaitan doesn't allow us to see the guy who has less than us. If it's a bicycle, he's looking at the guy who has the nicer bicycle. If it's clothes, he's looking at the guy who has the nicer clothes. If it's standard of living, he's looking at the people who have a higher standard of living. He's like, oh wow, those guys have it made. Wow, look at that house. Wow, look at this. Wow, look at that. And so you're in this constant drive to have more. To have more of dunya and get away with less of deen. But the fortunate person, the hadith tells us, is the one who looks at those people that are superior to them in deen. And they feel small. Say, wow, I'm not there yet, but I'm going to try. I want to do that. I'm missing out on that. I want to do that. I'm only doing this much. That person is doing this much in deen. And in dunya, looking at the people who have less than us. So the one who has a car is looking at those who don't have a car. The one who has a bike is looking for the people who don't have a bike, they have to walk. The one who has to walk is looking at those people who don't even have legs to walk with. In dunya, always looking at those people who are in a lesser situation than us, so that we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever we have. And the beauty of thanking Allah is that every time we thank Him, our bounties will increase. And every time we get this sense of contentment in deen, that what I'm doing is enough, we will find that a piece of our deen will be taken away. The barakah of our deen will be removed. The barakah of a'mal comes when you do them and you ask Allah for forgiveness that you didn't do them the way they were supposed to, you didn't do as many as you were supposed to. This will bring barakah in your a'mal. And the barakah of a'mal is removed when you say, oh, I've done so much. This was some food for thought. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to implement these things in our lives and enable us to get around the challenges, the bad environments. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rid us of all negative influences in our lives. And may He make us pious, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitate our friendships with the pious people in this world. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallah wa bihamdihi. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله.
للخير والعقل والصدق والنصح تلقى الصديق الحقيقي.